They say. Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us in this December edition of Talkin Teeth with Dr. J. Today, I have the great pleasure to welcome Dr. Tobias Steinherr, my good friend from Germany. Him and I met in 2023 when I was a patient in the Swiss Biohealth Clinic, and I had my own tooth treatment done, and he was one of the doctors that worked on me while I was there, and we had a lot of time to chat and found out that we had lots in common, and so we stayed in touch ever since then. And Tobias actually had a brief stint in Canada after he left Europe, and you still own your place there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
That's right.
Cape Breton is where they relocated first, and they stopped his whole family. He's got 6 kids, and they all came by my place, and we had a nice day together in the Toronto area. And then it was pretty funny. You bought a big van and packed your whole family into. I guess they flew and you drove, but you needed a big van, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You still have the van?
Well, basically, this like some hours ago, the car dealer just wrote me a message that he got the car now because we are now trying to sell it there. So it's a big
Okay.
Chevy van, seating I think 12 people or even 15 people. So crazy car. But right now, as we're in Dubai, we won't need the car in Canada. And like with the weather in Cape Breton, I think the car doesn't get better if it's placed there somewhere. And so as long as it still exists and it's not rusted away, we want to get rid of it now because we don't need it. And once we come back, I think we will fit in some other 8-seater as well.
Nice. Yeah, so Tobias and I were just discussing some ways we could collaborate, and we had this idea to do this discussion together. And so he's got a ton of experience. He's going to share his experience with us working in some of the top biological dentistry clinics in the world in Germany and Switzerland. So I asked him to share some of his experiences there, and then we can talk about how we're going to collaborate going forward. So I'll just turn it over to you now. So I'll shut up over here and let you take over.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Julian, for inviting me to your fabulous talk. It's pretty amazing and impressive what you built over there in Canada. I just met you not too long ago, and you were at the very beginning. You just started it, and what it became, what you made out of this idea is really impressive. And yeah, I'm really curious where it's going to go. So
Well, thanks.
I think
you helped me a lot on the way. So
yeah. But most of it is like you're very straightforward, just amazing surgeon and amazing person as well. And I think this combination always works out. If you're a great person and also very skilled and interested in learning new stuff and open-minded, and I think that's something that everyone here has in common. Everyone who joined this talk, because I mean, you can get standard medicine, standard treatments everywhere, and it's okay. Many people would say, well, it worked for me over the past 40, 50 years. Why should I change, or why should I be open to new ideas? But I mean, on the other side of the spectrum, if you're a dentist and if you are open-minded, then you will pretty soon discover how big the impact can be if you just change your mind a little bit and moving from just this manual profession like repairing stuff and fixing stuff like a plumber, and yeah, just like emphasizing that the doctor that also is part of your job actually. And just look at the medical side of things. Look at, okay, how are the pathways in my patient's body? How can I make him get better? How where do his symptoms actually come from? And may I, as a dentist, be involved in this path that my patient is on in a negative or in a positive way? And if we start realizing that we as dentists have such a huge impact on our patient's health, because the materials we're using, the procedures we are performing, I mean, we are in one of the main centers of our body. It's just below your brain, like the central computer. Our, like the nerves, that the trigeminous nerve is like, it's not actually a nerve fiber like other nerve fibers that you have in your arms or in your feet or wherever, but it's like an extension of your brain. Yeah, so like the 12 brain nerves are more or less an extension of your brain and not just some nerve fiber somewhere. And so we're in such a close relationship to our central unit here on top, that there of course must be an impact. And the same thing accounts to your immune system, right? Because like everything that enters your body on a natural way enters it through your nose or through your mouth, what you eat, what you drink, the air you breathe. And so our immune system is highly active in this area, because whatever is getting into your body has to be checked by your immune system. Is it friendly? Is it not friendly? Do I have to fight it, or can I accept it? And that, of course, applies also to everything we put in our mouth. And there is no other profession who uses or has been using that many different foreign materials to stay permanently in our patient's body. And I mean, we now learned, of course, that mercury, as one of the most toxic elements we have on this planet, is maybe not the best idea to place it inside our teeth, because there is nothing like a highly toxic material that all of a sudden gets totally non-problematic as soon as it's in our teeth, but as soon as we drill it out again, it's a highly toxic waste we have to take special care of. So if you just look at it with common sense, it never made sense. But well, we are beyond amalgam and mercury and stuff like that, okay? But still, like even other metals that we are using, and that includes gold and everything, has an impact on our body. I just came back to Dubai from interesting conference in Germany, where I had the honor to give a short talk as well. And there were some fabulous people. It was like on osteoimmunology. So like just talking about FDOJs, about bone, about all the pathways that are happening, how we can prevent, how we can treat FDOJs, and like all the immunology behind and around it. It was also very interesting. Had some very interesting talks there about what metals, like each kind of metal, can cause to our bodies, what they can start and trigger with our immune system as foreign body reactions. And so I think we're still at the very beginning as like dentistry as a whole, just to understand what we actually did over the past 40 years. And if you see it from a positive perspective, on the other hand, it's also one of the biggest chances of our time as dentists, that once we understand, and I mean, you are one of the leading figures, Julian, like in this case in Canada, for sure, that we can have such a high impact on our patient's health, because once we remove all those permanent negative triggers in our patient's mouth, then the healing process can start, and then everything else can get into place again, and get your body can just start to use his self-healing capacities much better, because once we remove those permanent triggers that are present 24 hours, 7 days a week, then all of a sudden, the patient, the body of our patient can start his healing journey again. And so, maybe just nothing new, maybe for all of you, because I'm sure Dr. J is talking about it a lot, but now you just heard it from another crazy guy on the other side of the ocean. And that's what drives us as dentists. Once you discovered the huge impact, the positive impact you can have on your patient's health, it's like, in a positive way, like a drug addiction. so you can't go back and you can't do the old stuff anymore, because you
Yeah.
know you're not doing any good. You're doing maybe even some harm to your patient, and so you have to do it a different way. Yeah, and you're just uh, yeah, pushed and pushed every day by the healing journeys you're about to discover with your patients together, and yeah, that's just a super huge motivation. But after talking a
Tobias,
lot about that.
I just want to point out quick, just to everyone listening, in case you don't know what FDOJ is when he refers to it. So another term is called cavitation. So it's an area usually where a tooth was previously extracted, and most commonly it's the wisdom teeth, and then it never healed properly. And so where we were hoping that bone would have filled in the socket where the tooth was removed, it just fills in with fatty tissue usually. So the term FDOJ is fatty degenerative osteonecrosis of the jawbone. And 2 months ago, I did a full hour-long presentation on that topic alone in this group. So there's a recording of that. So people maybe don't know about that. That's what that's about. So if he refers to the term FDOJ, that's what that is. But anyway, yeah, I'll let you keep going there.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I just put together some slides to show you who I am and what my background is, explaining my story, and then we can go from there, whatever you want to talk about. But as you can see, basically, I'm from Germany. I studied. I had my dental school in Munich, so in the southern part. Everyone knows Oktoberfest, of course, and so that's the town where I studied and became a dentist in 2008. And I had my first years of dentistry also in Munich, and then I quickly discovered that my passion is basically in oral surgery. So I was a oral surgery trainee in a quite well-known practice in Germany, in the western part of Bavaria, maybe 100 kilometers east of Munich, so same area, for 3 years. And then I moved to another small town in Germany, also southern part, also Bavaria, just on the other side of Munich, and became quickly the head of a private dental clinic there, head of the oral surgery department. And we were specialized in maybe or like complex full mouth restorations with implants. And at that time, in the beginning, it was still titanium implants, of course, and they're still doing them. But so I also started with standard dentistry with titanium implants. And let's see, maybe I have some. Yeah, that's just a small picture here. Like we did full mouth restoration, general anesthesia, so like everything you can do in dentistry. We had it, we did it, and then in 2016, around 17, I discovered ceramic implants. I was always interested in it, but like everyone told you, okay, they're not too safe, they don't heal as well, they can break, and all that silly stuff that's still out there about zirconia implants, and which was true at a certain point in time, but we're far beyond it. I'm sure Dr. J already told you a lot about it and about the benefits of zirconia implants. But I just became curious because patients kept asking, and so I searched the web and I found a clinic in Switzerland, Swiss Bauhealth. Julian already mentioned it at the beginning, and yeah, I did a course there, and I was pretty hyped. And you can see, maybe also Dr. J told you about PRF, like the blood membranes that we are doing to boost your bone healing, to avoid cavitations, like he just talked about. So basically, you're getting your plasma, putting the blood into a centrifuge, and then you get those plasma membranes, and they contain all the stem cells, all the immunological active cells that you need to have a proper healing. And it's just fantastic what they're doing. You get so much less swelling, less pain, faster healing. So it's a really like it's your own body's immune booster. So great technique. And so we started doing it. at that time still with titanium implants, but I did my first courses on ceramic implants. And then, yeah, like I think something funny happened at that time because I had a colleague, Rebecca Huber, she was called, and she came to the clinic and wanted to work for me as a oral surgeon. And so I employed her in the clinic. And one of the first things I did is I sent her to Switzerland. Say, okay, there is this fantastic clinic. Just take a look. I want to improve our concepts. I want to start working more with biological concepts, and even start with zirconia implants. But now, if once we share now the surgical department, I want you to do the courses as well, and then we can figure out how we can implement it into the clinic. And so I sent her to Switzerland, and she came back, and she was hyped as I was at that time. But 2 months later, she told me that she will leave. I said, okay, why? What's happening? We just started to have a great work relationship. We started to improve the clinic, and so why are you leaving? Yeah, well, these courses in Switzerland, I really like them, and so I asked them if I can work there. I want to learn more, and they just gave me a job. So okay. I'm happy for you, but of course it's not too great for me. But of course, then she left because she was also even more hyped than I was. So she moved to Switzerland to start to work for Swiss Biohealth. And several years later, I just wasn't too happy in Germany with the clinic the way it took, because it was super hard to implement the biological concepts. And so we chatted and had a call from time to time, and she said, hey, why don't you come to Switzerland? I said, well, I'm based here. At that time, we had 5 kids. So I can't just take my kids, my wife, and move to Switzerland. They will laugh at me if I tell them. But then actually, I just told them more as a joke, basically. And my wife was, well, Switzerland, not too bad. We can think about. And then, yeah, we just decided to do something crazy, and we sold the house and sold the car. And well, no, we kept the car basically, where we sold the house, and we moved to Switzerland indeed. And so that was 2021. And yeah, then all of a sudden I was at the same biological clinic, and that's where I met Dr. J. And Rebecca at that time became a very important person there at Swiss Biohealth. She moved a lot there. She was part of major developments there at the clinic, and so it was just a crazy and a great place to be, because I think I've never learned more in a shorter amount of time than within those 2.5, 3 years in the Swiss Biohealth Clinic. And the pictures you can see below, it's just different courses and seminars we did. There's one biological clinic in Costa Rica, Costa Rica Biohealth, it's called, and I had the pleasure to do courses there. And each year they do a prosthodontic course on zirconia implants, and I'm part of it. Luckily, we got Zoom and the internet, so I don't have to fly out to Costa Rica each year. I can do it from different places virtually. We had some courses in the States, and of course, a lot of courses educating dentists in our training center in Switzerland. And later, I switched to another biological clinic and a small practice, because, yeah, it's just, you can see the courses that we did, also some impressions from different trainings we had. That was in Costa Rica. And yeah, now 2025, we are in Dubai, but it was not a straight move from Switzerland to Dubai. And that's the place where I'm working now. You can see Burj Al Arab, you might know it, and that's Rose Biohealth Clinic. Also, David Rose joined all those training courses in Switzerland at Swiss Biohealth and just brought the concepts to Dubai. And so, of course, it's quite comfortable here. That's the way we have our Christmas coffee here at the beach, and that's something you don't see a moose on the streets, but you can see some camels blocking the streets. So it's similar but different. Yeah, and that was just a talk recently, and you can see this titanium implant here at the screen. So it was just all about FDOJ immunology, what titanium does to our bodies, what metals do to our bodies. That's the cell education course we did for dentists about bone immunology. This picture was just taken 2 weeks ago in Poland. I visited a good friend of mine who has a biological clinic in Poland as well. And I did 3 days only FDOJ surgery, some implants, but mainly FDOJ surgery. So also a big topic here in Europe. And so it's not only work-wise why I'm traveling. That you can see my family here. My wife at the very right, Emilia, our 5-year-old now, and here it's me in the middle. It's a Christmas Eve in Malaysia last year, because as you can see, looking at the different places here on top, after we relocated from Switzerland, my family and I started to travel. We wanted to show the kids a little bit of the world. And then, so we started Switzerland. Then you can see the Canadian flag. We visited Dr. J, and we started our time in Canada for more than 9 months. And then we moved to Costa Rica for several months. That's where I started also giving courses for Costa Rica biohealth. Had a short stopover in Panama. Then we visited Canadian West Coast, Kelowna, the Vancouver area, and then came back to the East Coast, enjoyed our time there. And then we took a big move, went to Thailand, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, because Sri Lanka was just halfway between Asia and the United Arab Emirates. And since January this year, we are here. And now I'm working for Dr. Rose Biohealth here in Dubai. So,
you think you're staying there? You planning to stay there a while?
Yeah, like now we consider Dubai and the Emirates as a very nice hub spot. So in summer it's pretty hot, so we're just thinking about how to manage not to be there here next summer, between maybe June, July, August, even September. Like those are the hottest 4 months where it's hard to go outside with the kids. And if you're just spending your time at malls, it's getting a little bit boring over time. And the same problem you have with your like frozen cars, is that our cars here get so hot that you even cannot touch the handle, and you just like need a pair of gloves to touch your steering wheels for the first 5 minutes until the AC hits and cools it down. So I mean, it's manageable, but it's not the best time of the year. And so with all the connections we meanwhile have to different biological clinics and different colleagues, we just try to figure out how we can get a good mix.
Nice.
Maybe one funny personal side story. You can see the girl here in the white and blue colored dress on the very left. The tall guy here is Philip, our oldest son. He turns 18 next weekend. And Larissa, the girl here on the very left, we had her to join from Canada, actually. So she's German, but we met her in Canada, her and her family. And she joined us as an au pair for our 2 little girls. And she took care of the 2 little girls, quite well. It worked out pretty well. But all of a sudden, it shifted, and she took more or better care of our oldest son. So she became now like our potential daughter-in-law, or how you would call it. So she's now for more than 1.5 years the girlfriend of our oldest son. And so have to be careful. Like if you're employing an au pair, you really have to be precise on which kids she should take care take care about.
I was going to ask. I was like, I think one of those is not your family, but yeah.
We met her like in the second Canada term before we moved to Asia, and so that's why you didn't meet her in our first Canadian time interval. And so like that's now what I'm passionate about. Like Dr. J is just zirconia implants, the whole immunology and how we can make things better. That's where I'm doing the most education about for dentists. How they can improve the work and how they can make use of all the fantastic materials and techniques we have meanwhile, but just too few of us dentists know about. And I think that's why we're also here, just to spread the message and to educate not only the patients, but especially the dentists, because they have to know it and they have to be able to perform all those treatments and to know about the benefits of like zirconia implants, for example. And yeah, I think that's why we're all here. And now you can
So
just
last month I talked about this topic exactly. I was teaching the difference between the bone level and tissue level and why not all zirconia implants are equal, and
yeah,
why.
great.
Yeah,
And I
it's
think
good.
that's also very, very important because it's not only switching from titanium to zirconia. That's not the main thing that makes it better,
Right.
but like to choose the right implant and to know exactly how to use it to get all the benefits from it. Because otherwise, you might even get results that are worse in the first step than titanium. And it's not because of zirconia or it's not working, but it's just you apply the wrong techniques with the wrong implants. And that's also something we have to understand. It's like in the end, all the manufacturers, of course, they want to earn some decent money, and they put a lot of money into the research and production of those stuff. But many are just, yeah, they have been producing titanium implants for decades, and then they just copy paste their design into
Yeah.
zirconia just to being able to offer zirconia implants, and that's just makes it worse because you're giving away all the benefits. Well, not all the benefits, but many benefits of the zirconia, and you're but like also including all the weaknesses of the material, and we are far beyond that. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have our perfect designs that just can replace
So
a
I have a
tooth as
question
close
for
to
you.
nature. Yeah.
In your experience with zirconia implants, have you, like, I had a patient for a consult today who had an older zirconia implant, and we have to take it out, and the position's not so good, and I think there was some infection from a previous extraction that wasn't cleaned out properly, so the implant's kind of right adjacent to some infection in the bone. And she's worried. She's like, I just think that something about the zirconia is not sitting well with me, and my body doesn't tolerate it. And I said, what, I wouldn't like discount that. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I haven't really seen it. Have you seen it at all? Have you ever seen a patient that just doesn't tolerate it?
No, basically not. So I think there are two or maybe three things we have to consider. One is, of course, if we are using an improper design,
Yeah.
like especially here, like a bone level implant, or even I think also like those I won't mention the name
Yeah, your
of the
two piece.
manufacturer,
Yeah.
but like the two-piece implant you can see here with the black carbon fiber V-carbo screw, we also had to take some of them out just because with those gaps here, I mean, you have to imagine, or let me switch to another presentation. It was just a course I gave for biological dentists about exactly this topic, and I think maybe we can just see some slides from here. Let's see what's a good point to start. Yeah,
You're
maybe
fine.
just to see here. We know even from titanium, and titanium is like a softer material, that it's impossible to have a complete seal between the
Yeah.
abutment, like that's the upper part, and the titanium implant. And in titanium, we have a phenomenon that's called cold welding. So if you have a high torque with your screw, like 35, 40 Newton centimeters is quite a lot in our world. Even then, and even if you have a conical connection, you won't get a complete seal. So there's always biofilm, there's always bacteria that emerges from those gaps you have somewhere close to your bone. And with zirconia, it's just worse. I searched the literature, and even if you have a zirconia abutment that's placed on top of a titanium implant, the leakage is so much bigger. And of course, if you have zirconia and trying to make it fit together, it's just getting worse. And so I think that's one of the main reasons why we have to replace zirconia implants today, because we just, and that's ties in perfectly to what you also said about the two-piece implants. We're just using the wrong implants and making the problems by
The wrong
ourselves,
design.
because we're
Yeah, the
just
wrong
giving
design.
the bacteria the chance to get closer to the bone and to have perfect housing conditions just right above our bone. and so it's just self-made, and that's why it's so important to use the right implant design to avoid this completely, because no tooth has a gap down there, and if it has, because there is an old filling, that those are the teeth that cause problems. And if we want to rebuild nature, and if we want to get as close as possible back to the situation we once found with the healthy tooth, we need to use an implant that's like this one-piece design, like you're using them as well, that are just like, yeah, replacing the teeth as closest as it gets when we have like nature as our ideal yeah, as the situation we want to get back to. And the second thing, and I'm just trying to see how where the slide is with the okay, I think I have it in a different lecture. Just sorry, but I'm just trying
That's
to
fine, no worries.
give you an idea. Okay, I think that I have to translate it because this one is in German, but still I can explain, so it makes a sense. So whenever we look at our bone and infections in our bone, and you mentioned the FDOJs, we just have to understand what happens there, because so on the one hand we have like these superficial infections like on the surface, where we have contact between the bone and like bacteria in our mouth, and so it's pretty obvious if you have too many of the bad guys there, then we get some infection, and then that can make like an inflammation that that causes our bone loss, for example, on the superficial level. But if you're talking about FDOJs, those fatty degenerative osteonecrosis of the jawbones, or sometimes it's referred to as NICO, or right now actually we're trying to say cavitation, because that's basically why it is what it is, and there are like different kinds of those cavitations, and so like the best general term is cavitation indeed, and they have to happen somehow, and that's when we have any kind of stress on a cell level, like oxidative stress, yeah, a reactive oxygen species, how we call it, as ROS, then our mitochondria get down. Like we have less mitochondria because of the stress. Our cells cannot produce enough energy, and so they the DNA it gets damaged, and our body has like a safety switch. Yeah, if there is too much DNA damage, our body doesn't want the cell to divide and to split again, because then the like cancer risk is increased, of course. Yeah, if a damaged cell starts to replicate, then that's what we call cancer or a tumor. And of course, our body wants to avoid it at any cost, and so he puts it into sleep or repair mode. It's that protein P53 that gets active, and what we then see is that our bone marrow-derived mesenchymal stem cells, how we call them, they have a shift. They don't like become bone-building cells like they would normally do, but they are becoming fat tissue building cells. And so that's why we see this fatty tissue. And then we have less bone, we have more fatty degenerative tissue, and we have less repair mode, because the body puts it on hold, on pause, because if you would initiate the cell death and too many cells at the same time would die, then we would get so-called necrosis, and that would be also bad for the body. So the body puts it on pause and says, okay, I will take care about those cells later. Yeah, I don't kill them all at once. I will try to repair them later, but I don't want to have them to replicate anymore. And if it becomes like, if this becomes a chronic condition, then they express that they don't replicate anymore. And so we have this degenerative tissue. And on the other hand, they express cytokines, like certain cytokines that should trigger an immune reaction. But as it's a chronic state, the body is just not able to repair it, because then in the end, in the center, we don't have any blood vessels anymore. And so there is no regenerative process possible because the body cannot enter the center of the cavitation anymore. And so in the end, we have this typical chemokine expression that we also see in those FDOJ cavitations, like that certain chemokines are expressed heavily, others are not there. And that's why we see those fatty degenerative tissues. And the interesting thing is now, it's not only the tooth extraction that can cause it. We see after each tooth extraction, and we had a very interesting study by the University of Frankfurt that we saw last weekend, that after each extraction, some kind of cavitation stays in the end. The body is just not able to rebuild that much bone, but sometimes it doesn't matter, because if it's just like neutral fatty tissue or not as heavily calcified bone as there was, it's okay. But once we have other chronic conditions, and most of our patients, like each of us, has these days a high omega-6 level, for example, again, is more like prone to a chronic inflammatory state just because of the nutrition we are getting, low omega-3 levels, then it's more likely that it switches into this fatty degenerative tissue that expresses this chronic inflammatory cytokines. And as it's based basically on cell stress, of course, toxins from dead teeth, from root canal treated teeth, can cause the exact same pathway. And the same is true for tooth extraction or for a titanium implant, because titanium as a metal is just causing chronic inflammatory reactions by your body. And that's now the second point to mention, the difference between titanium and zirconia. In titanium, being a metal, you have always so-called free iron. So there's always particles that can be released due to corrosion, basically. Because even if, as titanium is so-called biocompatible, there is biocorrosion with titanium as well. And you just have to wait long enough. And after 8 to 10 years, there are studies that's up to 50%, 47% to be precise, of our patients show some kind of inflammatory response to their titanium implants. So there is something happening. You just have to wait. And so that's why your body gets triggered by the titanium. With zirconia, it's a totally different structure on an atomic level, and there are no particles that can be released. So there is nothing like corrosion happening on a biochemical level. And zirconia is super neutral. You have studies that if you have titanium particles, your body always will react with his immune cells. He will try to get rid of those titanium particles. And even if you insert a titanium implant, like with all correct protocols, after several hours, you can find titanium particle in your local lymph nodes, and later you can even find titanium particles in your liver and in your kidneys. That's just because titanium, as soon as in your body, gets released in small particles, and you can find them later. And it just depends on your body and how much your body is able to compensate for it. And what's your individual threshold is for titanium to react or not to react with your immune system, if you are getting any consequences from this titanium particle release. And we don't see that in zirconia. We have much less immunological response to zirconia because it's acting completely neutral in our body. And so that was a very, very long and maybe even too complicated answer. I'm sorry for that. To explain why I don't think that zirconia shows similar reactions, or I would say, and now maybe it makes a little bit more sense, if there once was either a root canal treated tooth or just a tooth extraction that never healed properly, or titanium implant or whatever, then there was maybe remaining fatty tissue or remaining senescent cells in this area. And once you put a zirconia implant there, maybe the zirconia implant does a perfect job, but the bone wasn't still healthy. That's why we are doing the PRF. That's why we are doing the ozone and all those biological protocols.
Nutritional protocols and everything.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes people might say, well, what's that for a crazy dude? He's doing all that crazy stuff, and like the last tooth that got extracted, he just pulled out the tooth, and that was basically it. And now this guy comes around the corner and says we have to do ozone and PRF and this and that and that, and he's making like this huge thing out of a simple tooth extraction. But like, he's not crazy. It's exactly this pathway and this knowledge we have today, and what we want to try to avoid, to put harm on our patient and our patient's immune system that might not appear in the first place, but like 5 years later, 10 years later, and no one will relate it back to a tooth extraction or what the dentist did at that time. Yeah. And that's why we have to take so much care in the first place, because whatever we are doing, it's not paying off right away. Well, in a positive way, it does most of the time, thankfully, but even the negative consequences, they take their time to show up. And so we have to take care about it today, to avoid the problems our patients will run into in 5 years, in 10 years, or even later from now.
I have one little question. What does Uber gang mean?
Where?
On your slide in the middle, it says Uber gang. I'm like, what does that word mean?
In the middle, Übergang. Okay. It's just a transition to cell senescence, if you translate it.
So Uber gang means transition?
Yeah. And Übergang is a transition, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? It's funny you bring up about, why, because same. I talk to my patients about all these extra things we need to do now when we do a tooth extraction. And it comes from dentists like us who used to do it the old way. And a lot of the time we would see the patient back, whether it was to do maybe a titanium implant, and you're expecting good bone to have healed there after 4 months or 4 to 6 months of healing. And then you go in and maybe 30, 35, 40% of the time you notice, oh, there's not good bone here. I can't just put my implant that I was planning on doing. And then you go down this path and you realize, okay, there's things going on and things that are within our control that we can influence to help our patients have better healing outcomes if we take a few additional steps when we do these procedures.
Yeah. And maybe also one interesting fact that the guy you see here is Thomas Albrechtsson. He's a professor emeritus from Sweden, and he was one of the guys working hand in hand with Professor Brannemark, who was the actual inventor of titanium implants in the early 1960s. And so there is one quote from Brannemark who said, "Whenever I see yellow bone, I cancel the procedure." So even he was aware of FDOJ or those fatty degenerative lesions, and whenever he saw this, and we learn in university, well, that's class 4 bone, so it's just weak and soft bone, but it's like totally natural. No, it's not. And even they knew in the 60s, okay, whenever you see that fatty bone, it doesn't make sense to place an implant there because it will fail, because your body or your bone is not acting the way it should. But they had no explanation where it comes from. And so they had not like the scientific research behind that we have today. And this guy here, Thomas Albrechtsson, he joined Brannemark in 1968. And so he's one of the most experienced guys with titanium implants. He's, I think, the first or maybe second most cited quoted authors in dentistry. He published like hundreds of articles, and now these days he's an advocate for zirconia implants, because he said, well, after almost 50 years of titanium implants, we just see now the consequences, and it doesn't make sense to continue with titanium implants anymore. And I mean, there is no living guy on this planet like him who has that much knowledge about titanium implants, and he's one of the strongest advocates for zirconia implants these days. And that's like one of the key studies he did, in my opinion, that just nicely explains the procedure and the process behind this peri-implantitis we see with titanium implant, that he basically also stated after 40 years of research, well, our body accepts, but it's like a ceasefire, or he calls it foreign body equilibrium. You can implant titanium into your body and it will get integrated somehow. But as soon as something happens, yeah, your health changes. There's a little bit like too much biofilm, too much bacteria. There is the corrosion. There are different other triggers, and all of a sudden you develop this peri-implantitis. And if you take a look, it's always like almost a symmetrical crater where the bone just goes away. It's not like one single spot where you can see, okay, there was like a little bit of excess cement or something that caused the peri-implantitis. It's like a general reaction of your body, of your bone to the titanium. And yeah, so it totally makes sense what he states. And it was one of the eye openers in my career when I read the study. So, okay, now I think I get an idea of what titanium is doing and why it makes so much sense to go in a biological direction and not using titanium anymore whenever we can.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. It's 5 to 8 over here at least. Is there anything else you wanted to chat about before I open it up to questions?
I think we can just go for the questions, because I could talk for hours and for days. I think, but yeah, let's get some questions and answer the real.
How are you feeling?
Real questions.
Are you feeling awake, or you need some coffee, or you good?
No, I'm fine. I had
Okay.
my coffee already, so I'm absolutely.
Nice. Yeah, you're doing great.
Yeah.
So I just
Okay.
wanted to share like some of our plans. So I've been getting a lot of people reaching out for looking for help. I mean, we're pretty much, there are a few others, but in terms of the way things were being done in Europe, in the Swiss Biohealth Clinic and some of the other leading clinics, our clinic is the only one in Canada doing these things like at this level. And so the word's kind of getting out, and patients are finding out, reaching out to us. So we're getting just tons of patients reaching out, which is awesome. And so it can be overwhelming at times when patients are reaching out asking for help and wanting to come see us. So I was thinking, okay, and I was talking to Tobias, brainstorming what we can do, and I thought it was a great idea with all his experience that from a virtual capacity, because some patients, for example, I'm in Toronto area, but there's people from Alberta and British Columbia and even Nova Scotia reaching out, wanting to come. So my idea was for Tobias, who has the time and the availability, to do kind of some virtual consultation with patients who are thinking about coming, and can help us develop treatment plans and figure out what's the best approach for our patients. So anyways, I just thought this would be a great introduction. And if you're watching the recording of this, that's kind of the background and how Tobias and I got to know each other. And we're very, very much on the same page in our philosophy on how we treat patients, in our thinking, and how we're always prioritizing the overall full body health of the patient, and really carefully considering what materials are we using, what materials are we putting into your body. We carry a huge responsibility as the practitioner of it's us that you're trusting, and we're implanting something in your body. So it gives me great confidence, where I didn't have that confidence with titanium. I always had this feeling inside of me that when I was doing them, that what, if I ever was in this position, I don't think I would want this in my own body. I always felt this kind of feeling in my stomach. And then when I went down this road, I ended up getting this treatment. I have one of these zirconia implants in my own mouth, and it's a much better feeling going to work every day, working with my patients, knowing that the treatment that I'm providing is what I want for myself and what I did do for myself. And so that's really the essence of biological dentistry. It's for me as the dentist, it's the way I would want to be treated if I were the patient, and I'm someone who prioritizes their health above almost everything else. And so yeah, if you're coming for treatment with us, that's the standard. It's the treatment we would provide for ourselves or our closest family. And so yeah, anyways, thank you so much, Tobias, for that. And I guess we can see if anyone has any questions. Specifically, we can answer general questions too, but if anyone has any questions for Tobias, I think that would be a good place to start. So if you can just unmute yourself if you have a question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Raj Hans from Ottawa area.
Hey.
Just the FDOJs that you're both talking about, Tobias, yourself, and Julian. What's the best way to find out if you possibly have a problem with a previous extraction? We've heard of cone analysis and all this, but what's the latest research on that?
I'll give you my short answer. So you hear this a lot. Like, let's say you're listening to a biological dentist on a podcast or something. They'll tell you, go get a cone beam scan, and that's what you do. But I don't agree with that, because let's say you go in Ottawa and you go get a cone beam scan. The person who takes the scan, most likely they're going to have no idea about FDOJ. And so they're not even going to be able to tell you. And even the radiologist, if they send the scan to a radiologist for interpretation, most of the time, even they won't tell you that there's a problem in the bone, because it's just, they didn't learn about it. And this is kind of a newer development in the field of dentistry, where it's not common knowledge in the field. And so what I tell patients is just get a panoramic x-ray. And if, let's say, you're considering coming to see me, or whoever you find that you decide you're going to work with, you first send them the panoramic x-ray. We can have a pretty good idea from a panoramic x-ray if there's healthy looking bone or not in there. And then if you're coming to see me, I prefer to take the scan with my machine. It's always a challenge when patients already got a scan taken and they send it our way, and it's never as good because there's software incompatibility and stuff. So we sometimes have a hard time even opening the scan to view it, and it's not always the best quality. And then we end up, if you come for treatment, we end up deciding that we probably need to take a new scan anyway. So that's a kind of a long-winded answer, but I think the short answer is you get a panoramic x-ray and you find a biological dentist who's doing these procedures, and then you get them to give you further direction. Yeah, and I'm gonna drop the recording from a few months ago where I gave the presentation on FDOJs. I'll drop the link in the chat here in case people here haven't seen it. But yeah, Tobias, why don't you can elaborate if you have anything else to say on that?
Yeah, basically I totally agree. Especially, it might sound silly, but once you've seen like several hundreds or even thousands of FDOJ areas, you get kind of a gut feeling for it. So and that's really the issue with those cone beams. The quality of the machines is so different, and also the clarity, how the machine or then the specific software shows the density of the bone. So you really have to get used to your own equipment and to be able to interpret the picture the best you can. And even with a cone beam CT scan, sometimes it's pretty hard to find those areas if you're not experienced, because like you mentioned, Julian, if the radiologist doesn't know what he or she has to look for, how should they see it? And so it's really to get a first idea. Panoramic X-ray is the one that I prefer the most, because once you have an eye for it, then you can at least guess a certain probability where those FDOJs are and if they are there or not, and then you can intensify your search with the cone beam CT scan. Once it's your own machine, you exactly know the parameters you can change and what you're looking for. We have a device called Cavitau. That's an ultrasonic-based machine that can measure specifically the density of the bone. The problem with that is it's really hard to get used to it, because in those areas where we find those FDOJs in more than 90% of the time in the wisdom tooth area, it's pretty hard to reach with this ultrasonic device. And so that's in theory, that's a possibility, but in the end, you will always do your CT scan, and then you can add this ultrasonic device, and they're super expensive, super hard to learn. And so there's only a few practices in Europe who even have them. But that's like, in theory, if you ever read about Cavitau, then that's something that's available as well. But like the best way is to find an experienced dentist and get a CT scan then in his practice, and get him or her to interpret the picture, and then you can be pretty sure if there is a cavitation or not. There is also like general symptoms like chronic fatigue. If you're not able to concentrate, if your short-term or long-term memory seems to have suffered over the past years, like something like that, that can also give us a hint for an FDOJ, because as I talked about, like this mitochondriopathia, like your cells not being able to produce the energy anymore because of this cell shift and those fatty degenerative tissue. That can be like a symptom that leads you to a diagnosis, but also it can come from heavy metal intoxication. It can come from so many different reasons. That's for itself. It's also not like the one fact that shows you that you have an FDOJ. And so it's basically a huge puzzle where you need a lot of experience just to combine the hints you're getting. And in the end, you're ending up with the diagnosis FDOJ. But experience is king in this field.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So I have a question. So it's not easy to get this kind of blood work here, but is it anyone in Europe doing like Rante's blood test or CCL5, like to maybe use that to help with the diagnosis?
Yeah, there are some labs. Basically, it's 1 or 2 labs in Germany where you can send it in on a standard basis. One is in Berlin. But basically, yeah, it's only one small piece of the puzzle, because Rantes is not specific for FDOJ. And we basically talked 2 days about Rantes back in Munich at the conference, and we had Professor Nelson there. He was at Stanford University first, and then later he moved to Munich, and like he dedicated his whole life to Rantes basically. And I think he's the most knowledgeable guy about CCL5 and Rantes living on this planet, or most of the one of the most knowledgeable people about this topic. And he also said, well, it's not specific, because each inflammatory process, even the good ones that we need to heal, Rantes is expressed. The CCL5 is just a very unspecific chemotaxane that we need for a sufficient immunological response. And like the main thing with those FDOJ or with those cavitations is that like it's not turned off once the enemy is defeated. And so we have this chronic overexpression. And we also see Rantes involved in a lot of other and even cancer-related illnesses, but it doesn't mean that Rantes causes cancer in the first place. It's like one component that is a part of this whole body reaction. And so, meanwhile, we were very excited about Rantes over the past decades when we talked about cavitations, but meanwhile, it's not like this like big of a deal anymore, because we are realizing it's unspecific and doesn't help us too much, even if we have high Rantes levels, because it can come from different sources. But of course, if you have the chance and if you see there are like highly overexpressed Rantes levels, it can give you another hint. But like I wouldn't dedicate all my time and efforts, also financially, to find some lab somewhere on the planet to send my blood work to get the Rantes level, because it's only one part of the puzzle. It can be helpful, but if the efforts are too high, then it doesn't make too much sense, and it's better to concentrate like on a high quality scan and stuff like that.
Okay. Awesome. Another question on that? What are they at the conference you're at? Are a lot of people recommending bone grafting of the cavitations now, like in the wisdom teeth areas?
Yeah, actually, it becomes more popular because we also saw, and also the Ganati study that he showed, like it was just they issued the study, I think 2 weeks ago. So it's like totally brand new, and they developed a certain technique to visualize three-dimensionally with CT scans, like those hollow areas in the bone, and they found out that even if you are treating the FDOJ areas with PRF, there can be some leftover more hollow spaces afterwards. So we are not sure if there is still active FDOJ tissue, like degenerative tissue in there. But anyways, as we only can like the only idea we can get about if there is an FDOJ or not is basically the density of the bone. And so once you're treating it, of course, you also want to see some change in the picture to be sure that the bone is now also different on an immunologic level. And so there's more and more the tendency to use either the patient's own bone or to mix it with some bone grafting materials like beta tricalcium phosphate or hydroxyapatite. Mix it with your own bone, and of course the PRF, just to make sure and to have like an extra tool or something that just can make you more sure that you will have a denser bone without those cavitations afterwards. And as well as the development that we are like doing now with the guy from Germany, the doctor with the new IV protocols, like with secondary plant components like curcumin and stuff and other stuff, just to also to address the cell senescence mode of your cells and to like switch them back into healthy cells and to make sure that the process doesn't start over again. Like there are different approaches right now, but the bone graft is indeed one of the things that we as dentists can do, and it gets more and more popular amongst biological dentists.
I've been doing it most of the time now, not for the uppers, because the uppers you can just remove the tuber, right?
That's right.
But the lowers for sure. And like my thinking is like, okay, well, if we do it in every other socket, like let's say you're extracting a first molar and you it's going to be a delayed approach because of an infection or whatever, like we're bone grafting it because we want there to be bone when we go back. And so I'm just using the same thinking for just because we're not planning to go back, if our intention is for there to be bone there, then it just makes sense to me to as an insurance policy too. Like
absolutely.
So cool.
Totally agree.
Okay, who's what's that? Who's next?
Susan, I think, was one of the first ones to raise her hand.
Okay.
Yes. Hi, Dr. J, and nice to meet you, Tobias. So my question to you, Dr. J, is you just mentioned that you're getting a lot of referrals, and I'm a person that's referring people to your clinic and to you specifically. And so a friend of mine at Yoga, Andrea Morgan, has reached out to your clinic. She has a ton of dental problems, serious dental problems in her mouth. But you mentioned that you're having so many referrals that you can't handle them all, and that maybe Tobias has more time and he's going to do like some upfront consultation. How can he do that if he doesn't actually see the patient?
Oh, let's let him
and like
answer.
Doesn't look in their mouth.
Yeah.
So
I can just go ahead and I can jump in then after after your answer.
The beauty is Tobias worked at the Swiss Biohealth Clinic, which they're famous for having people travel from all over the world, including like some of the most well-known celebrities have gone there to get their treatment done. And so they developed this protocol and approach by which, with the panoramic X-ray, which is the full mouth two-dimensional X-ray, you can get a pretty darn good idea of what the state of someone's mouth is. And when you're looking at the health side of things, you're mostly interested in, are there metals in the mouth? Are there root canals? And are there cavitations or FDOJs? Those are the three main levers that you can pull to really help move the needle on someone's health. And you can tell all of that from a panoramic x-ray.
Okay.
And so when we do the oral exam, yeah, we look at the condition of the teeth. We see if there's maybe some cracks in the teeth that need to be addressed. And like it all kind of becomes a little bit more minor stuff, but 95% you can get a really good idea from just the panoramic image. And so at the Swiss Biohealth Clinic, they had patients traveling to visit them from all over the world all the time, and they would do everything virtual before the patients came for their treatment. So anyway, go ahead, Tobias.
Yeah, but I totally agree to what you just said. Because basically, once you have a lot of experience, you know exactly what you have to look for. Because then, like in each patient's body, metals are doing basically the same stuff, and like titanium is basically doing the same stuff. And then if you have once you have the panoramic x-ray and the patient can tell you about the symptoms, and you can just like put everything together, then you can, like Julian said, get like 80 to 90, 95% of the picture you already have. And then the oral assessment and stuff like that becomes just fine adjusting, but you already know where the thing is going to. You know what you have to do. You can do like the overall plan. It's like if you're building a house. Once you have the blueprint and you know where the kitchen should be and like the living room and stuff like that, you have all the major information you need for the construction team. And once you're there, later, even during the building process, you can decide on which color the tiles should have, or if you have a wooden floor or maybe tiles or something different, or like which color the kitchen will be. But that becomes minor stuff. That's not like the main thing you have to address, but you get the overall idea. And then, of course, we cannot do treatment virtually, not yet, at least. Let's talk about in 10 years. But right now, of course, you have to meet somewhere to do the actual work. But like the major planning work is done. And then once you see each other, then you can really concentrate on the last adjustments and on the details. And it just saves so much time, because then someone like Julian can just, okay, now I got the overall idea, the information. We both know what we are talking about. And now just take care of the details and say, like, which steps do you want to roll out the planning and the treatment and so on. And so it totally makes sense to do it that way. And we had patients from Australia. Funny enough, I had patients from Dubai flying into Switzerland. Now I have patients from Switzerland flying into Dubai to get the treatment done. So it works both ways. Yeah, but it's amazing what we can do now and how we can collaborate over huge distances. I mean, I'm in Dubai, you're in Canada, and we're having a chat here about dentistry and biological dentistry. It's just great what we have achieved with techniques and stuff like that. Yeah.
2 quick questions. Have you already started doing the consultations with Julian? And secondly, how current should the panoramic scan be in order for you to analyze it properly?
Well, whenever we talk about the panoramic X-ray, there is this general term. It should be from like the past 6 months, just because then it's very likely that not too much changed since then. Of course, if there was no major dental work done and it's like 8 months or 9 months, we can still work with it. And then we have to know which treatments maybe have been performed over those past 9 months since the panoramic picture was taken. I mean, for the FDOJ's areas, they might have been there for the past decades, and so they will show up on the picture as well. But of course, the more recent the picture is, the better it is. The higher the quality, the better it is. But in the end, we just can start with whatever we have, and then we can still decide if there is something questionable on the panoramic to do a new shot or whatever. Okay. And yeah, now like this talk here is maybe, or is more or less like the kickoff for this consultation idea. And so that's what we are just trying to build, and also see how the feedback is from you as a patient, because we just want to make sure that like the patients that we all are seeing having like the best experience, and whenever we can work together, be it with different courses and just like the exchange we're having anyways about like topics, discussing treatment protocols and stuff like that, why don't we extend it to working together, sharing patients and just treating or consultating patients together. That was the main idea that developed over the past weeks, let's say, and that's why we're meeting here today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Tara, you want to go?
Yes. First, thank you
Waiting
so much.
patiently there.
Yeah, it's all good. Thank you so much. I appreciate your guys' time. So my question is for you, Julian. I'm ready for both of you. I did send in my daughter's panoramic X-rays last week.
Yeah.
To Kristen, and I'm waiting on her blood work that she's getting this week. So I have two questions for you. The first one, she's going to be 14 this week. She had a filling done in 2021, and it was a deep filling. And now she has braces, and she just had the X-ray, and they found a abscess on the back second molar.
Is that the same tooth with the
Yeah.
deep filling? Okay.
Yeah. And so she complained last month of jaw pain, but she plays volleyball, and so I thought she just got hit, and I just said I'd ignored it. And then I guess last night again, she was complaining of a lot of pain in her jaw and underneath where the tooth is. So my question to you, is that something you would do? I don't know, like would you extract that tooth?
If it's abscessed, possibly. The problem is when you're too young. So like,
Yeah.
she's 14. You said you can't really do implants yet.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So sometimes, like, and this is a conversation I like to have. Sometimes actually the best treatment is a root canal, and it's not something to like get too freaked out about it, because what happens is if you just take the tooth out and you don't put something back there, then she loses all the bone, and it can be very difficult sometimes to recreate bone once it's been eroded so much.
Okay.
And so I had a root canal on my front tooth for like 27 years, and when I was 35 or I don't know what I was, 2023, I finally got it out. But you're talking about like, she's 14, she needs to be around 18 before that's like the earliest.
Yeah.
So sometimes the best approach is actually to do a root canal. Is it a permanent tooth or a baby? It's a permanent tooth. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what happens is the abscess will heal. So root canals for the short term, they work, and the infection will heal. And when they said abscess, it means that there's already some bone destruction that's happening. And so like, if this is the tooth and this is what the bone is supposed to be, the bone is like this, and there's a big space between, and that's the abscess. When you do a root canal, that abscess, most of the time, it heals and the bone grows back in. And so it can be stable for a long time. Mine was stable for 27 years. So for her to get 4, 5, 6 years out of it, and I wouldn't even say you need to rush at 18 years old to take it out. They should be monitored. And probably sometime in her 20s, if optimal health is the priority, then you probably plan to have that tooth removed and a ceramic implant done. At least that's the best thing we have available today. But I don't think you need to panic. And I don't. It's kind of a controversial opinion, honestly. Like, I have arguments with other biological dentists that are like hardcore against root canals at all costs, and I think it's a mistake. I don't know. Maybe Tobias disagrees with me. I'm happy to have my mind changed, but I think if it was my kid, I would do the root canal and then
remove it
there sometime around 20, 21, whatever. Like, take it out and do a ceramic implant.
I'm totally at the same page than you are. I also would say that because root canal is not like any root canal. You can have experts on it and they really do a good job, and still we can then ask the question if it's like super totally neutral on an immunological level, and it might be not, but what we can do for sure with the root canal, especially if it's properly done, then like you said, Julian, we can just reduce the amount of impact this has on our body. And so then it's better to have the root canal treated tooth with a minimum impact our body can compensate for, especially when you're younger, and save the bone and avoid the bone loss that Dr. J just talked about. So I'm totally on the same page. I would always prefer to have a proper root canal treatment done and then wait until she's 18, 19, 20 or whatever, and then think about the replacement, than to rush right now. And I also have those discussions with a good friend of mine here. He's also a German dentist in Switzerland, and he's doing a lot of like research and practical research on root canals with chlorine dioxide solution, for example. So that's a hot topic because like we are not officially are allowed to use it in our patient in different ways, but I mean, there are great results, and you can do like kind of biological root canal treatments or more biological root canal treatments if you're using the right substances to disinfect the tooth inside out. And so it's always good to have even a good endodontist in your team, or like 100%. You can refer to as a biological dentist, because sometimes it's just the best compromise you can go for a certain time. My other question would be, does she still have her wisdom teeth, or?
I don't think she has them yet, and she got her teeth really late. Yeah.
Because sometimes, and that's just another option, is it really depends on how developed the wisdom tooth is, and how the wisdom tooth is formed, if it's like, if it makes sense. But sometimes if it's the second molar, you can also think about extracting at a certain point in time the second molar and just try to get the third molar in position of the second molar, because just the next tooth, and instead of extracting the wisdom tooth, you can have it like a spare tire and just move it a little bit forward. And that's something, but that you need a good orthodontist, because sometimes it's not easy to move those teeth, and it also depends on how they come out of the bone, and there are a lot of details that can decide over if it's possible or not. But I had several cases where this was quite a good option, to get the second molar extracted and then just to replace it with the third molar that's already there, like the spare tire, and you can move it forward. Like, it's a very specific tooth position where you can think about something like that.
That's a really good point. And the other thing, Tara, is the condition of that tooth, whether even it's fixable or not. So everything I answered to you is assuming that the tooth can be restored. So it's doesn't have like a huge cavity that has undermined the whole thing. And
I think it does.
So in that case, it depends. The first step is determine the restorability of the tooth. Can it be fixed?
Okay.
If the answer is yes, probably the best way to go is the root canal route. And for that, I would recommend seeing, like, especially for a molar, one of those molars, you want to see it you want it to be done by an endodontist who's a specialist in root canals. So like if you're coming to see us, I would refer you to the specialists that we work with, who they're just across the street, if that's what we decide is the right approach. But in the case where if the tooth's too far gone and it can't be fixed, then maybe what Tobias is suggesting is something possible, which would be a really good alternative as well.
That's fantastic. I mean,
did they give her an antibiotic or anything?
No, they haven't given her anything, because she hasn't really complained. And it wasn't until last night that she said that it hurt, and now it all makes sense to me. That it's her tooth, because we didn't know. So
okay, no problem.
And then my other question, I have my other daughter. She's 17, and she hit her front tooth with a metal straw about 2 years, maybe 3 years ago, and it's dead.
How hard did she hit it?
Not that hard. I don't know. It's not that hard. She had braces on, and then when the braces came off, it's discolored. And then we had is it a wet test? Is that what it's called? The test where they test to see if it's dead?
Oh, like a cold test,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I refused to remove it because I didn't want her to get a root canal, and I just left
Yeah.
it. So I know that she had to wait till she was 18,
Yeah.
at least. So yeah, she'll be 18 in June. So that's my other, yeah. I'm
Other
gonna have
situation, yeah.
Yes, but I'm
Okay.
assuming hers is more straightforward of just an implant.
It can
Does
be,
she have pain? Is there any pain?
No, nothing. It's more
Did you
aesthetics.
ever have did you ever have an X-ray taken if there is any bone damage underneath?
Yeah, we did it last year. My sister-in-law is a hygienist, so she's been on it for me. So she, she's due for another X-ray soon.
Yeah, because I would just jump in because I have like my 5-year-old. She hit her front tooth. It's a baby tooth, of course, but in the end, a tooth is a tooth, and if it's dead, then either the body reacts or not. And she has this dead front tooth since we were in Panama because she just hit it on the water slide and it gets dark.
Yeah.
So first of all, is if it's only dark and even if it doesn't respond to the cold test, in the end, the only thing we're interested in is your body reacting to it with a chronic inflammation or not. So if she has no pain and if there is no chronic inflammatory reaction, meaning there's any abscess or any bone loss like periodontitis on the apex about tooth.
like your other daughter, yeah.
But then you can just leave it like that, even if it's like only like a quite short amount, like half a year or maybe even 2 years until she gets or is able to get an implant. So of course, if there's any pain or we can see bone damage, then we would, like in the case with your other daughter, say, okay, let's get the root canal treatment done. Let's get the tooth cleaned on the inside so the bone can at least recover, and we have like a minor damage later on we have to deal with. But yeah, just what's your opinion on that, Julian?
Yeah, I like the number one thing is there an infection or an abscess or a problem happening in the bone? So just because it's quote unquote dead doesn't mean that it's having a negative reaction there. And so one of the options is to keep if it's not infected, then one of the options is to keep it, and you can maybe do some cosmetic work to improve the appearance of it, like you do some bonding or you can do a veneer or something like that, right? Yeah. So there's options, and it all depends. Yeah.
So I should get another X-ray then.
Because like the thing is, when you're dealing with people who are so young, like I would consider 18 to be like very young. If we jump right to the implant right away at 18 years old, we're asking a lot of that implant. We're basically asking it to last for the next 80 years without a problem. Like the goal when you're at the point of the implant, the goal is to have it last the rest of the patient's life, especially in the case of the ceramic implant. So like for me, for example, I was around 35 when I got my ceramic implant. I expect it to last me the rest of my life. That's what I'm expecting. But the earlier you go, the more risk there is of having a problem at some point. And it could be that, let's say they have another accident and they hit their face again. Let's say they're riding a bike or doing something like that. The implant will break. Like nothing's going to hold up to that amount of force. And now you have another mess on your hands to deal with. So there is value in trying to prolong the lifespan of like her tooth that she has in there right now. So because let's say she's 28 and then she hits her face and then she breaks that tooth. Okay, now we can take it out and we can put an implant. You know what I mean? So like you always have to think about that. You don't always want to jump right to the end, which I would consider like pulling the tooth, putting an implant. That's the end, right? So that's just few more things to think about there.
Okay. And now you can see everything on an X-ray? Like we can see, I guess you can.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like sometimes on the front tooth, the X-ray is quite good. Like in the back teeth, sometimes on a simple X-ray, there can be some infection there that doesn't show on the 2-dimension. Then you take the 3D X-ray and you see, oh, there is infection there.
Okay.
On the front tooth, it's pretty clear on the 2D X-ray, and then we always have the ability to take the 3D if we're not sure.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. So I'll start with the younger one first then.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, I need to. Yeah. She's in
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah, and you just get a 2D X-ray. Where do you live?
Yeah, Burlington.
Oh, okay. So yeah, then you get a 2D X-ray of the older daughter of her front tooth, and we look at that
Okay.
one. Like you can just send that, and then I'll give you a response, and then
Okay.
okay.
No, that's great. Amazing. Thank you. I appreciate it.
What do you think of that, Tobias? Like, do you agree? Like, you don't necessarily want to rush at 18 years old to take a tooth out, right?
No, I'm again just the same like you said, and what we also learned right now is especially once I'm more into this whole topic of cell senescence and all those like biological or biochemical pathways behind it, that only like the when a tooth is like discolored, basically it only means that there was some kind of hematoma inside the tooth. So that's what the discoloration tells you. But it doesn't tell you if there is any blood flow left or not. So you can't tell that like the tooth is dead on a biological point of view just because it's discolored. And even if the tooth doesn't respond to the cold test, it also doesn't tell you that the tooth is dead. It just tells you that it's less responsive. And so of course, in most of the time, those two symptoms together will show you or are just symptoms of a dead tooth. That's completely right. But in the end, if there is dead tissue that gets decomposed, then you will see some kind of reaction on the tip of the root. And that's why we want to react to it. Like not being sensitive on the tooth or have a discolored tooth is maybe an aesthetic problem, but it's not a health problem. And so that's why the X-ray is so important. And when we see, okay, there is no damage on the bone, so the body is able to compensate for it. I mean, what do we expect from the ceramic implant in the end? We expect it to be neutral in the bone and the bone not to respond to this replacement of the tooth. But if the root at this certain point in time does the exact same job, why don't we keep the root and therefore the tooth? And once it changes and once the body starts reacting to it, then we still are in a very good position, and then we can think about replacing it. And so basically just another long answer to the same thing that Julian said, but just to reinforce his statement, we don't know actually what's happening inside the tooth. Maybe it's just like a lot of cells are like in senescent mode because they got damaged through the hit, but it's not even completely dead. And sometimes we can even see that those teeth respond later to cold tests a little bit, at least again. And so, like Julian said, for me, the number one criteria would be, is the X-ray okay? Is there any damage? If not, just keep it as the best replacement that you have right now, the most biological replacement right now. And once the bone changes, we can still think about getting it replaced somehow.
Okay.
The other thing too is, although where we're at today is amazing with the techniques and the materials and all the things we're able to do, in 10 years, it's going to be better. It's just the way it is. And so there's always a value, if you can, to wait. So for example, in my own case, I'm grateful that I had a root canal for 27 years or whatever it was, and it allowed me to keep the stable situation. And that if I had done something about it 10 years ago, I would have probably ended up with a titanium implant,
right?
Because these things just weren't there yet. Maybe if I was in Switzerland, I would have got the ceramic, but that was pretty much the only place in the world they were doing this 10 years ago. So there's always that as well, that in 10 years, the techniques are just going to be so much better than they already are.
Okay. Yeah. I was just worried about a root canal. I've been
it's such a nuanced conversation, and that you just get these short snippets on Instagram and social media, and that's kind of this world we live in today where it's very black and white. This is good, this is bad, don't do this, do this, like, and it's rarely that simple. And in a lot of cases, it's a root canal is actually the best, like Tobias said, it's the best compromise. Everything's a compromise, and sometimes it's the best compromise. Yeah.
Just to tie in on what you said with the development is totally right, because just like to drop a short anecdote from my trip to Poland, my good friend there, Igor, he just developed a zirconia implant that's quite similar to the SDS one that most of biological dentists are using, but he was able, with a lot of research with the Fraunhofer Institute, that's like a very famous institute for material science in Germany, and they developed a new coating for zirconia implants that's made of a bioglass ceramic. And this bioglass ceramic, that it basically, when it gets in touch with blood or PRF, like body liquids, it releases like potassium, calcium, like certain minerals, and it can like fuse with your own bone, because there is like a layer created that's similar to the hydroxycarbonate apatite of your own bone. And so we have like a real fusion of the implant surface with the bone. And so that's like the next generation of osseointegration, or even like osseofusion, how I now would call it. And so there's so much development even in material science. Yeah, and so we're just working on getting it FDA approved next year in 2026. So hopefully, maybe we can also like spread out to Canada, but then like over the next 1 or 2 years. And so there's so much in progress even right now, and we're not yet talking about like creating new teeth in the laboratory from any stem cells. Who knows what we're talking about in 5 or in 10 years? But even right now, there is so much going on in development and improvement that it's just totally worth whenever you can. Of course, if you have an infection right now and the tooth has to get pulled, we have fantastic zirconia implants right now available to replace the tooth. But there is always the time. When time comes, there will be improvement, and when you have the chance to wait, then why don't give it a try and see where we're at in 2 years or in 3 years from now?
Okay, no, that's fair. That's good.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on.
So I'll wait to hear from you then, I guess.
Yeah.
Or your Kristen.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't hear from us by the end of the week, then send us another note. But
okay.
I'll tomorrow you should hear from us.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
I'm
sure we'll be seeing you.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anyone else that has anything they want to add, or maybe we can let Tobias get back to bed?
I think now it's almost 6 a.m. in the morning. Now it's we want to go to the safari park today with the kids. So I think I will just stay up, because I think
a holiday
in the 30s,
you said, right?
Yeah, here's a national holiday. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, yeah, thanks a lot. It was nice to do this with you. Appreciate it. You saved me last time. I put together like a 1-hour presentation, and I was talking for an hour, and I had a full day at work before, and I was so exhausted. And I actually got a little bit sick, and I'm still like, it's been 4 weeks and I'm still not 100%. And it was from that day where I just stretched myself too much. And so today was nice. I got to sit back and just relax a little bit, and I feel fully energized. So thank you for taking the floor.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was really a pleasure, because it's just always fun to see how we can like do so much good stuff when we work together, even not only cross borders, but like cross continents. And so that's amazing what's possible today. And
for sure.
hopefully there were some valuable insights for your people and in your patients as well. And whenever there is a question I can help with, then just don't hesitate to reach out. And I'm really looking forward how we can further collaborate. I actually also tried to get a license in Canada like some years ago, but it's just like they don't want us European guys there. They just don't allow us to practice in Canada. It took me more than 6 months to get registered here in Dubai, but they at least accept my German exams and my education. But it was still a long way. But yeah, Canada, US is just almost impossible. You have to do all the exams again and like do the whole study stuff again, and so it's pretty hard. But maybe I don't know. Maybe if the shortage in dentistry becomes more and more evident, maybe they can do some extension. We can call the National Board for Dentistry maybe once, and then we can see what we can do. I would love to get back to your place as well. I really enjoyed it being there. It would be great for the summer.
You haven't
actually
seen it now since the renovation. It's even nicer. So, yeah, no, it'd be great. Okay, my friend. Well, you guys have a wonderful day with the family. Tell them I say hi. Kelly says hello. So much. Here, I'll let Kelly wave. Or did you saw her on the? There's Kelly. Okay, thank you, everybody. Enjoy your rest of your evening, and
Thank you.
we'll see you guys. So the next one I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to stick to the first Monday of the month. So the next one would be, it looks like Monday, January 5th. And I'll be on the beach in the Caribbean, and I'll do it from there. So we'll see you guys from there. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Very much.
Take
Bye.
care.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank
Good
you.
night.